Former President Donald Trump's campaign appears to have raised significantly more money than President Joe Biden's last month. That's according to federal filings made public last night. While the Biden campaign and DNC reported raising $85 million in May, the Trump campaign, along with the RNC, reported raising $141 million during the same time. $50 million of that came from a single donation by a GOP mega donor after Trump's guilty verdict. Here to help us debrief this week in politics are Joel Payne and Terry Sullivan. Joel is a CBS News political contributor, Democratic strategist, and chief communications officer for Move On. And Terry is a CBS News political contributor and was the campaign manager for Marco Rubio's 2016 presidential campaign. Terry, Trump's campaign says they raised tens of millions of dollars following that felony conviction. So the question is, has the trial helped him more than it's hurt him?
Yeah, over and over again, we've seen that what is thought in conventional wisdom to be a hurdle for Donald Trump's campaign in his trials is just fuel for the campaign. From a fundraising standpoint, from when he was that first mugshot in Georgia, when everyone talked about how this was going to be the end of his campaign, he couldn't possibly survive this, and then they raised tens of millions of dollars then to this latest conviction. And this has really helped his campaign more than anything. And it plays right into the narrative where he's saying, look, it's unfair. I'm being singled out. I'm being targeted. And I understand what it's like to be harassed by the government. And people can empathize with that and are responding by contributing to his campaign and extra energy and intensity.
All right, Joel, I think I know what you're going to say. It's not about all the money. It's about how you use it. We already know Donald Trump's got a few lawyers to pay off. Should President Biden be concerned about Donald Trump outraising him this past month?
Anne-Marie scooping me on my talking points. You know what? You're right. Look, I've said for a long time, both of these candidates and campaigns are going to have plenty of money. Even when Joe Biden was smoking, Donald Trump in the fundraising race, I didn't really blanch at that. Just like I wouldn't blanch at this. They're going to have plenty of money to run a competitive national campaign. It is notable that a lot of that money from Trump came from a single donor. But I think one of the things that the Biden campaign has been smart about is, reserving some of those resources for key moments in key battleground states. I think you're going to see big investments start to come online with paid media and organizing and hiring staff. I can tell you as a Democrat, I've seen just so many notices about the Biden campaign bringing on staff, surging staff. I'd imagine the Republicans are doing the same. So you're going to really start to see those investments come to bear. But again, I think while these numbers are going to be flashy and they're going to look good for one candidate 1 month and the other candidate another month, both of these candidates are going to have plenty of money to run a competitive campaign.
As you both know, the first presidential debate is next week. It's also said to be the first time we've seen Trump debate this election cycle since he didn't participate in the GOP primary debates. There's been some reporting, Terry, that the former president and his supporters have perhaps set the bar too low for President Biden. And now they're a little worried that any kind of performance where he's able to just land a couple of rhetorical punches will make him seem to have performed better because they've created this narrative in his supporters' mind that he's senile, that he can't even, string two words together. What do you make of that?
Yeah, look, I think Joe Biden does an amazing job of setting the bar low for himself with his gaffes. We see it time and time again, and it's not anything that's just been recently. This is how Joe Biden behaves. It always has been, and he has a lot of gaffes, and we see the Trump campaign taking advantage of them over and over again. So, look, I think a lot of this campaign, not a ton of Americans are going to watch the entire debate, but what's going to happen are the viral moments in this debate, and what's going to matter is who has the positive versus the negative viral moments coming out of this debate, and that's what's going to get replayed over and over again and really drive the message coming out of the debate.
Right, but I think, Terry, I think the reason why the Trump campaign is a little bit perhaps worried that they've used this narrative is because what if Biden comes out swinging like he did at the State of the Union, which, everybody sort of, at least if you're a Democrat, was, applauded his performance. And even some Republicans said, OK, he was able to, deliver the message that he was trying to deliver. And he did it coherently. He did it forcefully. I think that's the concern, right? If that Joe Biden shows up and the Trump that rambles on about sharks or about other things shows up, then that could create a problem.
Right. Look, if ifs and buts were candy and nuts, we'd all have a Merry Christmas.
It's one of my favorite quotes of all time. Also the one having to do with my aunt and my uncle.
Right. Yeah. Well, okay. That one I won't use. Look, it is. But the reality is this debate is going to happen, and we're going to see where these guys. This is a game that campaigns continually play. It's not just this race this time, but should you lower expectations? Should you raise expectations? Yeah, all campaigns try to do it. You're right. There's an argument the Trump campaign has gotten over its skis, but I think it's a narrative that has really worked effectively. And when you look at the polling data, Americans are concerned about Joe Biden in a large chunk. Even Democrats are concerned about Joe Biden's ability to serve as president. I mean, that's why you had multiple Democrats coming out, James Carville being one of them, saying, look, he shouldn't run for re-election. So this is not just something that's contrived by the Trump campaign. These are real issues that they're capitalizing on. And so now they've got the backside of that, and they've now the expectations have been lowered by Democrats, by Trump campaign, and by Joe Biden himself. They've got to figure out how to compensate.
So, Joel, as you know, President Biden's at Camp David now preparing for the debates. I think I listened to a report recently that said that he's a studier. He really likes to have time to prep. He's a little busier this time around because he's also the president of the United States. What do you think he really should be focusing on in his time at Camp David?
The happy warrior, right? I mean, I think that's what he was at the State of the Union, somebody who was able to forcefully defend his agenda, forcefully lay out a vision for what he saw going forward, and forcefully contrast against what the Republican message was. And I think that if anything, I think you just want Joe Biden to show up as engaged, as somebody who the American people can look at and do the eyeball test and say, this is somebody who can, do another term as the president of the United States. I think that there will be moments, as Terry talked about, that both of the campaigns will try to, make go viral. But ultimately, this is just about whether or not the American people on their job interview with both of these men who want to be president can look at you and say, do they think you can perform the job of president? And so I just think that Joe Biden needs to show up. I don't think he needs to hit a home run. I think he can hit a single or a double. Also, look, I think the key point about this, I'll be brief. The reason why this debate is happening right now is because the Biden campaign wants to put that contrast forward now at this point in the cycle. You've already seen public opinion polls show that Democrats are starting to come home and are starting to coalesce around Joe Biden because the fight is becoming clarified. And I think that's also what Joe Biden wants to do, is clarify that fight for Democrats and rally his base.
And there certainly has been a lot of concern that the people the voters who are really going to make a difference in this election are not paying attention.
That's right.
Because this campaign has been going on forever, and you need something to pull them in.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah, I mean, look, that's all campaigns is that, especially it's amazing. These presidential campaigns are decided by people who are undecided the final week before a presidential election, which is always mind-boggling to me. But swing voters, these undecided voters who don't yet know enough about Donald Trump or enough about Joe Biden to make a decision are who's going to decide this in a handful of states right before the election.
Yeah. Joel, Terry, always great talking to you guys. Thanks, you. Have a great weekend. And you can follow along with CBS News 24/7 for the first presidential debate next week. Coverage will begin Thursday at 5 p.m. Eastern on America Decides. Stream the debate live at 9 p.m. Eastern right here on CBS 24/7.
Texas is recovering.